Exercise 4-3. In this exercise, we're going to build an inquiry form so that when the user types in a salesperson and a category, we're going to show the total revenue generated by that salesperson and the total number of orders in these two fields. Now, we have some preliminary work to do before we can enter the functions. We're going to first create a name for these ranges because we're going to be using them later on when we do our calculations. So let's get started. I'm going to switch over to the source data worksheet. So these are the ranges that we want to create a defined name for. So we're going to create a name for the range B2 all the way to B843. Okay, B843. Okay, that's the last row. And that's the last salesperson name. So we're going to create a name for this range. So to do that, you go to the menu, click Insert, Name, and Define. Okay, and you give a name to the range, and the name is going to be Salesperson. Okay, and it's going to go from B2, so you can just type it here or use the mouse to select it. B2 to B843. Okay, now be careful with the clicking with the arrow keys because it tends to change or add some references depending on where you're clicking on. So let's review. Salesperson is the defined name and it will refer to B2 to B843 of source data. And we always use absolute references for defined names. So that's okay. So we click Add. So now we have one defined name. Now we're going to go and add a second one. The second defined name is going to be for this range. Again, we're going to start from C2 and then we're going to end at C843. Okay, so this is going to be called order amount. So once again, I go up here, Insert, Name, Define, order amount. It will refer to C2 $C$843. Okay, click Add. And the third defined name is going to be called category. So I'm just going to go ahead and type it up here in the name. And this will refer to D2. Okay, so I'm just going to type over here and D2 to D843. I'm going to say Add. So now that I've got these defined names, I'm going to switch back to our exercise 4-3. Okay, and now I'm going to enter a formula here, and I'm going to use a function called SUMIFS. And what this will do is it will sum the order amount range, but only for a given salesperson in a given category. So let's start entering the formula. So we're going to say SUMIFS. The first argument is the range that you want to sum. Now again, we could enter this whole range reference here, but since we already have a defined name for it, we can just simply use the defined name in place of that range reference. And as you can see, it's much easier to type and understand. So that's the range we want to sum. Now our criteria range, the first criteria is the salesperson range, and the value in that range should be equal to whatever the user enters in B6 because that's the criteria for salesperson. And the next criteria range is category. Again, you will see that category already refers to D2 colon D843 on source data. And the criteria is going to be whatever the user types into B7. Okay, and press Enter. Now the answer is 0 because we haven't put anything here. So why don't we type in a salesperson name here and just a category here. And now you'll see the answer has been calculated for us. Now let's go to the total orders. For total orders, we're going to use a function called COUNTIFS. And COUNTIFS takes more than one criteria, and it counts how many rows in that range satisfy the criteria. So the first argument would be the first criteria range. So the first criteria range is going to be the salesperson, and the value has to be equal to whatever the user types in B6. The second criteria range is category, and that needs to be equal to whatever the user types into B7. And we only have two criteria ranges, so you type close parenthesis, and now you'll see that Clark made $31,835.86 in sales for landscape services, and he had a total of 38 orders. And so that's our exercise 4-3, using SUMIFS, COUNTIFS, and using defined names for our range references to make our formulas easier to read and easier to understand.